Gedalia Zlotowitz, who's now the head of ArtScroll. And when I told the story by Igor Shiuri Torah, many people called me up afterwards and they said it's impossible. Such a story could not have happened. So I called Gedalia Zlotowitz and I said, listen, I trust you. I'm sure that the story happened. But you never told me the name of the person to whom the story happened. But now people are questioning me. So I need you to call that person who the story happened to, because you told me that you spoke to him, and I have to be able to speak to him. Now, if he doesn't want me to use his name, that's okay. But I have to be able to speak to the person to know if the story is true and how it happened. He said, okay, I'll call you. I'll speak to that person, see if he wants to talk to you. And sure enough, the guy said, you could have him call, but he has to promise that he'll never use my name, because I'm embarrassed of what happened. So I spoke to the fellow, and he said, I'll tell you the whole story how it happened. I'll give you any prat that you want to know, but you have to promise me you're never going to use my name, because today I'm a famous person, and I have helped thousands of Yidden, and I'm embarrassed of what I did when I was 16 years old. And so I'm going to tell you the story. I'm going to tell it to you now as he told it to me, but of course I can't use his name. But he's a great person who has helped thousands of people. And he told me the story that happened when he was 16 years old. He was learning in the yeshiva where Rab David Trenk was a Rebbe. And one Friday night, he went into Rebbe's parking lot and he stole Rab David Trenk's car. And a guy comes over to him in the yeshiva. He says, where are you going? He says, I'm going to the movies. So the guy says to him, could you take me? He says, are you crazy? I'm going to take you to the movies, and I know that I'm doing something wrong, but I just feel like doing it. He said, I'm going to get you in trouble. He said, you can do whatever you want, but I am not going to take you. Sure enough, he stole the car. I don't know where in the world he got the keys, but he stole the Rebbe's car, and he went out to the movies. This kid was so upset that this other guy didn't take him. He goes to Rab David Trenk and he tells him, somebody stole your car. And he went to the movies Friday night. So Rab David Trenk can't believe it, and he goes to the lot and he sees his car is not there. So this fellow, who's an adult today and a very special person, tells me he was sitting in the movie theater and all of a sudden he sees somebody is sitting down next to him. And he turns around and he sees it's his Rebbe. He can't believe it. He turns to his Rebbe, he said, what are you doing here? So Rab David Trenk says to him, I have to tell you something. So that's why I came here. Now Rab David Trenk had gone to the movie theater and he saw the lady that was sitting in that booth and he said, look, I'm a rabbi. I'm not going to the movies tonight. But there is one of my students that's sitting here. Do you mind, can I go into the theater? I'll find him and I'll tell him what I have to tell him, and then I'll come right out. And she said, okay, fine, I trust you. So now this guy turns and he sees it's Rab David Trenk. And he says, Rebbe, what are you doing here? How'd you get here? He said, well, I walked. He said, that's a long walk from the yeshiva. I feel so bad that you had to walk. He said, well, I have to tell you something very important. He said, what do you want to tell me? So Rab David Trenk says to him, I wanted to tell you that the popcorn that they sell here is treif. And if you buy it and you eat the popcorn, it could affect your neshama. So don't buy the popcorn. It's not worth it. And all the food that they sell here in the theater is treif. So don't buy it, because it could affect your neshama in a terrible way. And the boy says to me, I turned to him and I said, Rebbe, that's all you want to tell me? He said, yeah, that's all I want to tell you. I'll see you back in the yeshiva. And he told me he was so moved and he was so shaken that Rab David Trenk would walk all this way just to tell him that as Rab David Trenk got up to leave, the kid told me, he's not a kid, he's a man today, he held on to the Rebbe's hand and he said, Rebbe, don't go. I'm going with you. And sure enough, they left the car in the parking lot and they walked back to the yeshiva, which took more than an hour. And when they came to the yeshiva, he told me, he said to Rab David, I swear, I'll never be Machal Shabbos again. And that kid never was Machal Shabbos again. He became an Elach HaBochar. He went eventually to another yeshiva, and he became a great person who has helped thousands of people. How did that happen? Because Rab David Trenk could have blown him out of the water. What would any of us done if Chas v'Shalom was our child or our Talmud? We would have yelled and screamed and told him 100 things. And the fellow told me that not once during the walk back to the yeshiva did he say anything about the movies, or did he say anything about him having stolen his car. But Rab David got the message across to him. And he understood that he had done a terrible thing. And he understood that the Rebbe wanted to get that message across to him, but he didn't say anything negative to him. But rather he got the message across. And because Rab David treated him with dignity and with respect, he understood that he had to change. And he did change. And he became a great person that almost every one of you here know his name. But because he felt that he had to save the dignity of that Bochar, the Bochar then became who he became. And that's what we have to learn tonight. No one is perfect. But when you give a compliment to somebody, you give them such chizuk that they could become somebody so special.